Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Square One podcast. We're taking our guests back to square one where they first started their careers or their businesses, and we're going to learn from their failures. Square One's brought to you by Omni Home Services, which represents Chattanooga Home Inspector, Elevate Home Staging Design, Nuclear Pest Control, Radon Eraser, and hopefully some more business entities in the future. I'm your host, Malcolm Godwin. Thank you for listening. Today we have Seth Loomis. You thought we were done talking about scuba diving. That's some bullshit. Okay? Seth is owner and creator of Loomis Productions. But first, we're going to talk about scuba diving for meg teeth.
Yes, meg teeth. The thing that I always thought was completely made up, not real. And then found some teeth out 30 miles from Wilmington, North Carolina. Pulled up about the size of my hands, so huge. But yeah, that was a scary time, fun time. But when you're actually out there, can't even see the outside or the shoreline.
Hold up. You're 30 miles off the coast.
30 miles off.
And you find some teeth in the ocean.
And of course, you gotta be insane because you want to jump in, even though you see a tiger shark circling the boat right there. Takes 3 hours to get out there.
Jen, where did you find this guy?
B&I Kingpin. Shout out.
A local institute.
Okay, so hold on. This is human teeth?
No. The megalodon, the giant sharks.
And you just saw that in the bottom of the ocean?
No. So basically, you're looking for old, ancient riverbeds that are out in the ocean.
Okay.
And what happens is, due to the rock and the currents, all these teeth just kind of show up along these riverbeds. So the guys who take you out there know where that stuff is. And then you dive down, do 2 dives out of the day. Of course, you got hours in between those because of how deep you're going. And then the key is when you're looking for them, you're not looking for teeth. You're looking for triangles. Because if you have the teeth in your brain, you're not going to see, the triangle because it is covered in barnacles, all that crap that's on it that disguises it. So you're just looking for anything that looks like a triangle. You grab it, and sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's a tooth the size of your hand.
I guess I should, megalodon teeth makes more sense. Shout out to Sean Smith.
You thought it was someone named
It's
Meg.
like Meg's teeth. Okie dokie. Seth, tell us about Loomis Productions, bro.
Yeah, so Loomis Productions, we are a small, as far as employees-wise, I've got one other guy who works with me. But we are a film production company that specializes in, commercials for broadcast, social media, any sort of video advertisement you need for your company, or if you just want to try and do your own Keeping Up with the Kardashians, we can make something like that happen because reality is also something that we have experience doing. So anything video advertising.
Cool.
Coolest video accolade?
For me, it wasn't very cool, but being able to be a part of it was kind of cool. I was hired for a temporary role on a TV show for ABC. I believe the final title, I've actually never even seen the show because once you work on it, you kind of get sick of it, so you never go into it. I think it was called Women of the Movement. It was the Emmett Till story that took place in Mississippi. And the cool thing about that was we actually filmed it in the actual courthouse that the entire trial took place of the people who killed him, everything like that. And so I was brought on just for, I think, a week to work the teleprompter for all the court scenes because they wanted everything said in the courtroom to be verbatim what was actually said, back when this actually happened. So they wanted every word not, because actors a lot of times, they'll add words in with, with the script. This one, they just wanted it to be exactly what was said. Now, one day they did go off the rails and they were trying to be actors and show their improv skills. And the directors, for some reason, let them go for what seemed an hour. And I'm sitting there, I'm scrolling thinking, this isn't on the script, whatever they're doing. But it was fun because, I think Jay-Z and Will Smith were producers on that. Now, they were not in Mississippi. They were producers from afar. But it was cool because it was also probably the biggest shoot I've been on. So you've got hundreds of people out there. It's organized chaos. It looks like an ant's nest. Everyone knows what they're doing, but if you're just looking at it, you're like, what is going on? But then after you work for a day or two, you figure things out. You know where you're supposed to be. You're on comms the whole time listening for them to call you. But yeah, that was probably the coolest experience, even though it was kind of also a miserable shoot at the same time, just because of the heat. And it was also during COVID. So you're wearing the N95s the whole time and getting, something stuck up your nose every morning. So yeah, that part was miserable.
That sounded pretty badass until like the very end there.
You got to end it on a low note.
Okay, so tell us about your favorite routine.
Favorite routine? Well, because I do work in film, movies is something I absolutely love watching. So usually at the end of the day, once all work's done, I can actually feel, safe about being lazy. I usually just pour out a whiskey and then not drink a movie, but watch a movie. If that is that possible.
Maybe. Drink a movie, watch a drink, whatever.
I haven't had anything this morning. So, but yeah, that's probably, that's almost a daily occurrence. And then weekends, it's hiking, fishing, just being outside and getting away from all screens.
I dig that. Well, our target audience is young entrepreneurs, CEOs, any kind of business leader. And we talk about what we really learn from is our failures. Tell us about one of the biggest failures you've experienced and what you've learned from it, Seth.
Yeah, well, since starting my business, I think it was the first or second job I got with my company. It was one where communication wasn't going as good as I thought. I figured they knew what I was thinking. I think they thought that I knew what they were thinking. So, I sent out a script. They were okay with it. And then we went out, shot it. They loved everything that happened that day. It was a really cool day. And, we get back to the edit room. So I'm editing it. I've got something. I'm like, okay, this one looks good, but it was the first cut. So I tell every client, the first cut, it's not going to be perfect, but I give it to you so you can see the direction we're going. So we're not wasting a lot of your money going in the wrong direction edit-wise. That way you can look at it and say, okay, this, I like where it's going, but we need to cut this out, maybe change this shot. That way I'm not doing a final commercial for you that then we have to go back and completely re-edit. So I didn't make that process clear enough, I don't think, to the client. And I remember seeing the email saying, hey, there's a lot of fat on this project. We need, that we're going to trim off, but I want you to see kind of this big commercial because it was way longer than it should have been. I think we were going for like a minute. It might have wound up being like a minute 40. But I just wanted him to see all the possibilities that were there. And I got the worst text you can get or email that you can get. And that's, this is not going how I want. I think we need a reshoot. And at that point, because you're feeling good about it, I have this thing. Anytime I feel good about a project and I send it out, I know they're going to hate it. If I hate the project and I send it out, they're usually going to love it every time without fail. I can be so confident about it. And then they come back, no, not what I wanted. So I got that dreaded text of, this is not what I want. This is not what we're going for. And, after that whole thing where first you start pacing because you're a little upset about it and then you're a little panicked about it because if you do a reshoot, you're losing money, a lot of money. So then I finally was like, you know what? I just need to call this guy up. Called him up and he started explaining that was just too long of a video. And I thought, wait, that's the only thing is it's too long. This is the first cut. This was just showing you every shot we had and all the possibilities with the shots. And then he said, oh, okay. I was like, so if you just want it down to this short, let me do the re-edit, send it out. And sure enough, send it to him. And he's like, that's exactly what I want. Now, of course, in it, there's some gore because, there was a fight sequence in it. And so we had to do more blood. So that required doing some CGI blood and stuff like that. But it turned out to be great. It's a really good looking commercial. It turned out to be a great project, but I learned communication with the client, even if it sounds like you're talking to a 5-year-old. That's what you got to do sometimes, actually most of the time.
And you said you needed to explain the process better. We talk about that a lot here with expectations, right? Mm-hmm. Making sure that they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, and the other thing is with the process, also explain kind of the pricing as well, because it's funny what people think they can get for like $100. It's not much. And then when you say that, they want to know, well, my nephew could do this for free. I'm like, great, go use your nephew, because it's not going to work out great for you in the end. But yeah, the process on pricing, what it takes to make your commercial happen, how long it's going to take. Because I think a lot of people also think it's all magic. You go, you shoot, and then it's going to be ready that night. Very rarely is that the case, unless you want something that looks terrible.
One of the questions that we ask is, if someone is getting into your line of work, what is one tactic they could implement right now to see a positive ROI? You say build a portfolio.
Yeah. So right now, it's really easy to build a portfolio, even if you have zero experience in the industry, because one, technology's gotten a lot cheaper. Cameras have gotten cheaper. The software to make this stuff has gotten cheaper. So if your goal is to get into the film industry and you don't know how because you have no work under your belt, the best thing you can do, make what I call spec spots. And that would be, you could take any product, in this room, microphone, cup, and do an actual commercial based off of that, and then send it out to studios. And usually what happens is, even though they know it's not your commercial and they know you aren't being paid for this, they can see that you have some amount of talent. So use that.
Do shit, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not actively out there doing something and learning something new, because, this happens all the time. You have an idea in your head, you implement it, and it looks like crap. So instead of just giving up on that, shoot it again, do research. YouTube's a great resource for learning new styles, new techniques. Try it again until you actually get the shot you want, and then you've learned through that process what to do, what not to do.
I love it. And then you also weighed in on communication. Not that I would like to clarify, not that you were calling your client or anybody a 5-year-old. However, when you are in a niche industry and your shit, everybody else doesn't. So sometimes we have to just kind of back out and say, you are the certified, licensed, experienced professional. They're not. So if we over communicate what they need to expect, they're going to expect reality, hopefully, right?
Right.
And you mentioned pricing too, and what you can get for $100. How do you approach that? I know in your industry you've got, what's your budget? What's your budget is a big question for some of these creative service-based businesses. And then they say, well, what does everything cost? Well, what do you want to happen? What's your budget? Right. So you're just going back and forth. So how do you navigate that, and what advice could you offer?
So one of the tactics I take is kind of a pricing list where it's multiple. So if you want X, Y, and Z in your video, it's going to cost this much. However, if you want less than that or more than that, it's going to go up by this percentage. So, one thing I look at is, what does it cost me just to show up there to shoot? So you got to factor that in. My time, what's that worth? What's my worth when it comes to all the gear I have, all the upkeep, and then anyone I bring on set. So is this shoot going to be big enough that requires me to bring on additional work? If so, I've got to then pay them whatever their rates are. Sometimes you can work with them on their rates, sometimes not. But you just have to factor all that in. But yeah, the big discussion is always, what are you going to charge? Well, what's your budget? And that's when you really just have to sit down and say, listen, do you feel comfortable paying $500 for this, or do you have a budget more like $5,000?
Well, and if you're hungry for the work, what are you lowering your value, lowering your worth to make it happen? In
the beginning, there was a lot of lowering of the work, but then you realize at that point, it's like having a kid that you did not discipline, because now you're going to go out and you're going to, exceed expectations for something that's really not a realistic budget. So now you have to get to that point, knowing that you're going to lose some work, but you're going to start getting a higher value client.
Yeah.
So we also ask about number one book recommendation that you left blank.
Yeah.
Is that because you do not read and you would like to replace that with a movie, or?
I'd much rather replace it with a movie, but it's like the books I've read in the past are just more, history, biography, stuff like that.
So what's your favorite movie? What's your movie recommendation?
So I've got several. It's definitely, and this one's kind of exciting because they're doing a sequel now. Like Gladiator was always up there for me. I love that. But I guess it also goes back to that TikTok trend of asking a guy about ancient Rome, and they're crazy about it. I've always been obsessed with that.
I don't know this trend.
You don't know
they're
that?
doing a sequel to Gladiator?
Yeah, the commercial just came out.
Like the Mel Gibson?
No, it's Braveheart with Russell Crowe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Equally as badass of a movie.
Yeah, so it takes place after his death with a new character. Cool thing is they're actually doing the water battles that they used to do in the Colosseum, which, I don't know if maybe Spartacus had that in the TV show, but yeah, it looks interesting. It doesn't, when I heard that they were doing a sequel, I thought that's the most unnecessary movie ever because the first one is so great.
Right.
But I'm kind of excited after seeing it. Yeah, everyone's talking about the music that's in it because it doesn't fit the genre of movie, but it's a commercial, so I'll give it a pass for that. Godfather's great. Braveheart is another one. Not at all historically accurate, but it's a great movie. Great movie.
So, what do you do to keep the business side of your business alive? And you talked about having one other employee, and when do you grow, and what about those nuances?
Yeah, with growing the business, it is networking a lot, and you got to know that for every time you meet someone, they're probably not going to take you, but you meet 100 people, there's going to be at least one that's going to want you. So networking, dry calling, starting to do some. Dry
calling? You doing cold calls?
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you.
Hate it because it's like, okay, complete stranger. You want a video? So, but you learn not to do that after a while. So,
can we role play the script that you got going on for the?
I don't have any script for it. It's just.
It's just you want a video.
I'm a talker, and usually it happens. So, yeah.
And there are certain videos you will not shoot.
There are, yeah, certain videos I will not shoot. So.
Do you get a lot of requests for those when you're cold calling?
No,
What kind of videos are you not going to shoot?
Well, I don't do adult content.
Okay.
And I say that, and I have to say that because, weirdly enough, it's when you're in a hotel elevator with your camera gear, there's always that one person who walks in and is like, hey, so would you film this? I was like, no. It can get pretty weird at times.
So takeaway, videographers, hide your gear in hotel elevators.
Yeah, hide your gear always. And if someone says, is that your gear? Always say, no, I don't know what this is.
I'm just the bellboy.
Yeah. I found this outside. It needs a new home. But yeah, now we are looking at getting into wedding videos because that's one that people constantly are talking about. I don't want to do it, but I'm working on partnering with another production company that I do help out a lot with on shoots. So they're probably going to come on board with me to help with that. So we're just working out details of that one.
Why do you not want to do wedding videos?
I find them incredibly boring. Every wedding video, just go watch a whole lot of them. They're all the same. They all start with that same shot of the wedding dress on the front porch. And that's what people want. I mean, it used to be you just filmed the ceremony completely and you gave it to the person. And it was more of just a video for them to watch on like their 1-year anniversary. And now it's just become this mini overview production. And with I was watching one yesterday of someone that I know who got married in a mysterious situation. I was trying to figure it out. But
can you elaborate on that?
No, I'm not gonna. I think it was a passport marriage over in like the Philippines.
We only have
like
2 listeners. Seth.
You're not gonna offend anyone.
Yeah, I was watching his video. I was kind of amazed too because it was filmed by a Filipino company, and it was exactly what we do over here with all the shots, everything, the extremely dramatic music. You've always got that one video, that one shot of someone ugly crying. And weddings are incredibly boring for me, especially if I don't know the people who are getting married. So
what if you were like, I offer these as like a cinematic horror story, or
see if they wanted a horror story, like what was that movie that just came out about the wedding and then they play a game at the end where they're hunting the new bride? Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
That would be. Yeah, it was. You know what I'm talking about? I forget what it came out like probably 3 years ago. But
with Jennifer Aniston, isn't it?
No,
It's J-Lo.
Is it J-Lo?
It is J-Lo.
Okay, there's Hollywood always works in this thing
Maybe.
of we're going to do like 5 of the same movie at one point, and they did something like that over a year ago. But if they want to do a horror style.
I think there's a niche there. There are certain people that don't want your typical wedding and, Star Wars weddings or something, and you could film it like a Star Wars movie.
See, something like that would be cool, especially if you shot it to feel and look just like the movie they're basing their wedding off of.
Exactly.
That would be cool.
There you go.
Seth, I'll have to introduce you to shout out Drew Bain. He'll play a mean candy clown.
Oh, I've seen photos of the clown.
He will definitely be in that production, for you with them. And that will be creepy.
So if people did weddings like that, I'd be all over it because it's like a Halloween event every wedding. So
I wanted videography at my wedding, and it was specifically because a lot of people in my family were dying, and I wanted someone to kind of go around and document all the old people.
Like on their deathbed?
Talking.
This wasn't like that movie we were just talking about. Y'all weren't hunting them after the wedding, right?
And then, of course, I did a lot of performance at my wedding, and there are not a lot of videographers that will do something unique if you want something unique. So you can market that.
Yeah, and because they all want to stick with the same stuff that they've been doing. Mm-hmm. I know a guy, he makes his entire career off of destination weddings. But his rule is I have to be there like 2 or 3 days before the wedding and then 2 or 3 days.
You have to pay for my vacation.
Yeah, basically.
Hell yeah.
Last I talked to him, he was booked through the year going across the world doing these destination weddings. I was like, you've got it made. And it's just him. So he has no overhead other than his gear. And then everyone pays for his travel and room and board.
Drew, I know you're listening to this right now. And I know you're dreaming up in your head how he can create a destination wedding venue that Candy is like the officiator, right? Or officiant.
Yep.
And is like, I now pronounce you.
Horror weddings. There are so many people that would do that.
That would be pretty sweet. Well, it's like, and Zach at our group, he, I think, does strange weddings like that, if I remember correctly. He did like a steampunk themed wedding, and
there's some weird people.
I think
there's some creative people.
Yeah,
creative. We're gonna call them creative. Okay, Seth, close your eyes.
All right.
Imagine you go back into time and you find your younger self. You go back to square one where your video production creative juices started coming together. What do you tell yourself?
Definitely quit the job that you think is going to be a career way early. Quit that one because it was also in the film industry. It was for another company, and I thought it was going to be a career move there because they had a lot of stuff going for them. But during COVID, things start to change, and I realized quickly that I could do this on my own. Because in the back of my mind, I always wanted to own my own production company. But it was always that almost scared of, okay, once I step out, it's 100% on me now to do this. But I would say definitely spend half the time that you spend at that company and start your company way sooner than you did.
Start today.
Start today.
Start today. What else do you tell yourself except quit your job?
Also, you don't want to fantasize that you're going to Hollywood one day to be the next Steven Spielberg. Because at the time, again, I thought all production was either through New York, Chicago, or LA. And then I start learning that, oh, wait, they're filming Walking Dead and all this down in Atlanta. And then you start realizing every city you've got in the country has a production company there doing local commercials. It may not be the most magical that you're expecting. It might just be one guy with a really tiny camera and one light, but still experience. You're still going to learn from him. And then you can use that as your next step to get to the next job. And then if your goal is to start a company, that's your little platform then to jump and start your own company.
Some of our guests say, don't let anyone take your dreams. And some of our guests say, your dreams are bullshit. Everything is attainable.
Yeah. I'm in the your dreams are bullshit. So,
all right. Tell us a little bit more about Loomis Productions. What's the next big thing we can see come out of there?
So right now I am currently developing and hopefully going to be able to get this, actually paid for, a documentary series about some historical
Meg's
things.
teeth.
Not yet. The reason why is with scuba diving, just the waterproof housing costs triple what the camera costs. It's insanely expensive. But yeah, I've got a project that I won't give it up because I don't want someone stealing my idea of something historical that happened in this area a couple, probably back in the 40s. Really interesting story. But
we have 2 listeners.
You gotta give us. Nobody's gonna fucking rip off your idea, dude.
So I'm working on getting a documentary about the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. So,
Tell us about it. I don't know about it.
So it's considered to be the most successful revolution since the American Revolution in the United States. Because what happened was it happened right after World War II. The GIs were coming back from Europe and the Pacific. And basically what they found was their entire town was taken over by people with different ideologies that came to power using corrupt means. Like it was actual election fraud, stuff like that going on in this town. And when the GIs came back and saw that, wait, they're counting our ballots in the police, I believe it was in the either post office or police station with closed doors, no one was allowed to watch. So they were just choosing who they want to win these.
Sounds a lot like Signal View.
And so what happened, long story short, is they finally had enough, stormed the National Guard armory and started shooting. Now, no one actually died in this. They blew up a car. They shot up the police station, the post office. And I'm from Memphis, and actually the guy who was in charge of all this election fraud was from Memphis as well. There's a street named after him in Memphis. But he got banned for life from ever entering that county again. The guy who was the current mayor and sheriff who got chased out for all this fraud, they were also banned. They were never allowed to enter that county again. So it's a really interesting story. There's a lot of stuff that happened there.
Can't wait to watch it.
And
Who knew?
Yeah, right up, I live up in Cleveland, so it's 30 minutes from where I live. So I'll drive around there and look at all the sites where this took place, and not a lot of people know about it. I read about it in high school and thought it was one of the coolest things I'd ever heard.
No one knows about it because nobody's ever made a documentary.
There's I think I saw, they did one, movie about it back in maybe 60s. But yeah, no one really knows about it. Very few, unless you're steeped into Tennessee history. So
I grew up around there. Didn't have a clue that happened.
Yeah, check it out. The Battle of Athens. It's a really, really cool story.
What's also a cool story is scientists have weighed in now with the most dangerous animal in the world being a mosquito. Just so you know, Nuclear Pest Control sprays for mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks.
Shout out.
Seth, how can we get a hold of you?
Best way to get in touch is you can email me at Seth@Loomis Productions. Get onto the website, which is just loomisproductions.com. There's an easy way to email, which Jen had something to do with that. So also Facebook. Just
Jen had something to do with your email. Did she give you 5, 6, 7 different emails?
helping me out with the website.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then Facebook, just go on there, look for Loomis Productions. You'll find us immediately. And then call me 901-494-5005.
Seth, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. We'll be looking forward to the Battle of Athens and Meg's Teeth, Part 2.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Square One podcast, brought to you by Omni Home Services. We represent Chattanooga Home Inspector, Nuclear Pest Control, Elevate Home Staging Design, Radon Eraser, and hopefully more business entities in the future. We release a new episode every Thursday. If you like this episode, share it with your friends, neighbors, real estate agents, or whoever. Make sure you subscribe to Spotify, Apple, or wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts.